Hey guys, Christina here, and today I wanted to talk about Story of the World. So when we were looking for recommendations for history and for social studies, this book and this curriculum kept coming up over and over again, and so we ended up going with it. And so today I wanted to show you how we used it, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and kind of how it's put together. So I'm just going to turn the camera around here and give you a view. All right, so this is the main part of Story of the World. So this is volume 1 that we did, Ancient Times. It says from the earliest nomads to the last Roman emperor. Now, the book is just one little book like this. It has 42 chapters in it that cover that time in history. And it starts off talking a little bit about what is history as well. So there's a few options with this curriculum. You can just read this book if you want. It does also come on audio CD if you want to listen to it. We also bought the activity guide that can come with it. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then we also got the tests and answers that go along with it. Now these came in bound books, and we took them apart and put them in the page protectors because we just felt that was a better way to protect them. We ended up photocopying what we needed out of here, and then each child had their own binder for it. So I'll just show you here. I really did like the activity book. I know some people don't use it, but I thought it had some really great information in it. So it goes through each chapter, and photocopying within your family is okay. That's good to know if you have multiple children. Some information on how to use it. A pronunciation guide, which is fantastic. There is also, at the back of this book, there is the same pronunciation guide. So very, very helpful because some of the names in this time period are definitely hard to pronounce. So this is an example of what a lesson or a chapter looks like. So there's encyclopedia cross-reference section, and then for each little part in here, I'll open this book up so you can see. So it says, what is history? So along with this little section here, there are some review questions, and there's a narration exercise you can do. And then the next part is, what is archaeology? And again, the same setup here. And then that's the end of the first chapter. So then they have additional reading, and there's a whole list here. I loved how detailed this was. It gave an idea of what was included in the books. It gave an idea of ages, lots of great information. And then at the end, they had all these activity projects. So like this one is, make a history of my family book. And so it tells you what materials you need. It tells you how to do it. It gives you a couple different options of what you can do. And so each one is set up the same, exactly the same sections, with the questions, the narration, and there's also starting in chapter 1. Oh, so the other one was the introduction, I guess. There's the map work, and I'll show you the map work in a minute. And so it goes through each lesson exactly the same. And then further on here, they have all of the answer keys for the maps are all here. That gives you an idea. And then they have the student activity pages. So this is what we would photocopy. I kind of picked and choose a little bit, but I would usually do one page that they could color. And then we would do the map that went along with it. And then I would do the test as well. I'll show you those again in a sec. So these are some examples of what the student pages look like. Lots of different neat coloring ideas. And then again, there were those, the tests at the back. So, I'll show you that in a second here. So I'll show you what it kind of looks like. So, skip. So this one is chapter 10, the Far East. And so there was the map, and there's very simple exercises in the beginning on what they needed to do for the map work, the coloring page while I read, and then there was the questions and the test here. So you can see this is Joshua's. This is my 9-year-old, it's grade 4. You can see some pictures there. So one of the activities we did was drawing what the gardens look like. And so that's his drawing. Well, there's some examples of kind of how it played out. You can see his pages weren't always staying in, unfortunately. There's another mapping activity. So we ended up doing not every activity. We kind of picked and choose from it. But I really did love how there were the options and all the ideas in here. So as part of the student activity book, there is this section at the back that has review cards. And so what we ended up doing was we photocopied it and we laminated them so that they would last longer. Now we didn't actually end up using these very much, which is my fault. I did it later in the year. But we are going to go through it again and just make sure that we understand the timeline and the major events that took place in the book. So it's a great little resource that comes along with it as well. So what we started off the year doing was that we would read from the book one day and do those review questions and the narration questions. And then the second day we would choose one of the activities to do, and then the kids would do the test at the end. Now I found that my 6-year-old was having some trouble with transitioning, and the other kids were kind of waiting for him a lot. And so what we decided to do was focus on one subject each afternoon from our group schooling that we did, our family schooling. And so we ended up doing Story of the World just one afternoon, and we did everything for that week or that unit in there. The only exception was a couple of videos we watched, which we watched on other days. And then we added in this game here, Professor Noggin's Ancient Civilizations. This goes along great with the book, and so we started doing games on Wednesdays, and this is one that they would play. It's really simple, it's good for a variety of ages, and it's a fun game to play as well. And then of course we had other books too. I would get out whatever I could from the library that was on that list, and then we picked up books at secondhand stores and stuff that went along with it too. So overall, I really liked Story of the World. I liked the format, that it was very user-friendly. So my children were in grade 1, 2, and 4, and then our 3-year-old listened and liked to answer questions and do some coloring as well. So I found that overall it was laid out really well, great information, great resources. I did feel a little bit like it was rushing through. So I'm not sure, I think we will use it again in the future, but we're either going to take it slower and do more additional resources, or I do like some of the programs like Bookshark and such that do use the book, use that read aloud book, this one here, but then they use other literature along with it. So not sure what we're gonna do, but overall we're pretty happy with it. My kids liked it. For the testing part, I know some people don't like to do tests. I just did it because it was interesting to see what they retained. My 6-year-old would often answer the questions while I was reading. And then the other kids, if they didn't know the answer, it wasn't more of, you know, you got it wrong. I would just give them the book and say, look it up, you know, like, so they're learning those skills at the same time, how to look for answers, how to look up information, and to retain it better. I did want to add too that the one thing I did notice was at the very end of the whole book, there's a map of the world. And the kids, I was surprised, had some trouble recognizing some of the areas we had talked about in relation to the whole world. So that's one piece of advice, and that we would definitely spend more time on next time, is looking at what we're studying in relation to the whole world, you know, like on the map behind me, what area we're in, because a lot of the maps that they use are very zoomed in, and it just helps them, I think they needed a little bit better idea of where in the world we were talking about at that time. So that's our review, our family's review of Story of the World. If there's any questions you have, please leave them in the comments down below and I will answer them for you. But otherwise, I hope you're having a great day. Take care.